They can go work retail, make the same amount of money, maybe have less stress, less concerns that they're bringing home. It's a real challenge.
And that is the challenge school districts are facing. Little salary difference between a gas station employee and a paraeducator. All students, no matter income, family background, or disability, all students are guaranteed a right to a public education. At the same time, schools are struggling to provide that education. There just are not enough professionals in classrooms. On perfect days like this one, you'll find Avery and Elizabeth and their little brother Colin walking home from school.
All right, what a day.
You might think little brother just can't get a word in edgewise.
And it was so scary, and I didn't even mind.
But even if he wanted to...
What do you think, Colin? Can you say mom, mom, mom?
Mom, 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 mama.
He can't.
Yay!
Colin has autism.
Also, sensory issues, and he's also nonverbal, so kind of some social and emotional development delays there. You coming? You say, come on, Elizabeth.
But one of the biggest challenges Colin and other kids like him are facing is a shortage of school staff.
He has an IEP, so his individualized education plan, that states that he needs a full-time professional to be with him.
Colin's mom is talking about a paraprofessional. In some schools, they're called associates.
To help with transitions from learning center to learning center, and to help with bathroom needs and things like that. Just things to get him through a typical school day.
For the first few months of the school year, Colin didn't have that support.
I am guessing it does not surprise you that so many people are leaving education.
Oh. Honestly, I'm amazed at the people who choose to stay.
Drew Foster taught special education for a few years and says he'd never go back.
In a school setting, you can't slow down for one kid.
That leads into, too, how critical associates or paraprofessionals are. How much did you lean on those people during your stint as a special ed teacher?
So I had 2 associates when I was a special education teacher who were absolutely amazing. They had been working at the school about as long as I'd been alive. And I knew that they loved the kids they worked with. They loved the community, they loved the school, and they just wanted to do what they could to help.
But Foster says they aren't getting the training nor the support they deserve.
They're tired. Sometimes they don't feel supported.
Dr. Angela Tuttle-Prince agrees.
They're some of the hardest working people in the building. They're working with the students who require the highest level of supports. They're doing it for low pay, and oftentimes they're not receiving professional development to know how to do their job.
Dr. Prince says shortages in special education have been an issue for a long time, but now things are reaching a crisis level.
We just can't train enough teachers for how many jobs are out there.
Here's one reason why. In 1975, Congress passed the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. It put a bunch of mandates in place for public schools, but it's never been fully funded.
The promise that was made with the federal law now almost 50 years ago has not been held. The initial promise back then was like the federal government was going to fund it 40%. I don't know that's ever made it above 20.
Wow. Okay. It's a big burden for states.
It is.
Particularly because more and more children are being diagnosed with special needs and in need of individual education plans. According to the National Center for Learning Disabilities, the number of students served by the IDEA increased by 25% over the past 2 decades. And instead of covering 40% of the cost of educating those kids, the federal government is now covering less than 16%. Leaving states to pick up the rest of the tab. Families like the Bruins feel it every day because school districts all over the state are suffering. There are countless openings for special education teachers, associates, and substitutes. Even with hiring bonuses and increases in pay, many positions are going unfilled.
Thank you.
Colin's school was able to hire more staff last winter, but his mom knows many kids aren't so lucky.
I think it's really hard as a parent. You want to advocate heavily for your child. You want what's best for them. But in this instance, we have scarce resources right now. I'm also acutely aware that when I advocate really loudly for my son, that means that resources are going to take away from another child in another school that equally needs those services.
So I reached out to our congressional delegation about the unfunded mandates of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Just 3 of the 6 responded. Senator Joni Ernst tells us she is, quote, very concerned about and focused on addressing the shortage. From Senator Charles Grassley, I am always happy to consider what can be done at the federal level to address this issue. And Congresswoman Cindy Axne says she often hears from students and teachers about, quote, how important it is to ensure our students get a high-quality education. The assurance is coming in the form of the IDEA Full Funding Act of 2021. The House and the Senate approved the measure back in November. The bill states that it will gradually increase special education funding over the next decade to eventually meet the promise that was made in the 1975 legislation. So Dan, once fully rolled out, it will have taken Congress 57 years to fund special education, and keep in mind that's just at 40% to help states and local districts with this burden.
It's obviously affecting generations of not only these individuals, but their families. Erin, thank you so much for educating us on this. I'm just struck by the idea that advocating for your kid means another kid has to go without.
It certainly
does. Heartbreaking. Thank you so much for sharing this with us tonight.